Good morning, everybody. It's been a great morning so far. I've really enjoyed all the speakers. And I think nobody's any doubt that retail is speeding up. I think whichever way you look at it, from a customer perspective, our customers are spending more time on digital than ever before. And actually, mobile, again, mentioned a lot this morning, is touching 51% of all transactions, whether that's retail or digital. We know that competition is intensifying massively. And I'm seeing a real shift in retailers towards profitability and focus. And whether that's more profitable customers, or it's our most profitable stores, and how do we drive more traffic to those places? Or lastly, it could be around the profitability of different products and product lines, and how do we really make sure that we drive those categories? The other thing I'm seeing in businesses is a real focus around operational model, and actually what is the right profitable model to serve customers. We've moved past trying to serve all customers brilliantly all the time, to think about actually what is the right profitable model for our business. And so, in light of that, I think connecting retail is really important. And whether you're a retailer, you're usually trying to connect to your customers through your product or your brand. You're trying to connect your digital and your retail environments. And you're trying to connect your own business. And more than ever, we're seeing different bits of retail, front end and back end, being connected together. So, 15 minutes isn't a lot of time. And I thought that it would be nice to just touch on 5 technologies that I think are going to be really key to connect retailers in the next few years. But let's start with the customer. And this is Stacey. She is a real customer. And as part of a research panel done by Luft Research, she agreed to have her purchase journey. In this case, it was for a car, kind of monitored as part of her purchase journey. Does anyone want to hazard a guess at how many digital touch points she used during her journey to buy a car?
50.
50, good start. Higher, a bit higher than 50. Anybody higher than 50? I've never done an auction before, this is good. 70. 200, keep going. Okay, I'll do it myself. 900. 900 touch points. And this is a real customer research. And these are the ones, we've highlighted the ones in Google here for a different presentation. But I think it's amazing when you think about 900 touch points, and probably without realizing, now auto journeys are long journeys, we know that, and sometimes people are researching over a year or so. But it just shows the amount of different touch points, and also the amount of touch points on mobile, 71% on mobile. We'll come back to Stacey and her journey a little bit later on. Now, the first technology I want to talk about relates to speed. Now, we know customers are impatient. We've heard about speed quite a lot this morning. And actually, it's amazing to think that after 3 seconds, 53% of customers would have left our site. Okay? 53% would have left after 3 seconds. Now, if I was sitting here in the audience at this stage, I'd be thinking, Jesus, how long does it take my site to load, my mobile site? Okay, we'll come on to that in a second. Now, as well as having 53% of your customers leaving after 3 seconds, the little numbers at the top are pretty important too. Because every second is going to decrease your conversion by 20%. Okay? Every second decreases conversion by 20%. And we've pulled these data from Google Analytics from many, many thousands of customers. So we started to look at how do retailers across EMEA benchmark against this. And we found that 2 seconds is really the key time. You want to have a site, a mobile site, that loads in less than 2 seconds. Okay? And we looked at the average speed for the top 100 EMEA retailers. We found that it was 3.8 seconds, which doesn't sound that bad, but when you know the stat is 53% are going to leave after 3 seconds, that's nowhere near as good as it needs to be. And then we looked at 318 businesses, not just retailers, across all industry. And we looked at how many of them met that 2-second mark. And there were only 14 retailers, most of them retail, and most of them pure play, that actually met that 2-second benchmark. And out of interest, my second question to the audience, what do you think the global benchmark is? So this is global benchmark for how long mobile sites take to load. So it's 3.8 for the top 100 retailers in EMEA. What do you think it is globally? Any guesses? 22, yeah. So 22 seconds globally. Okay? So relatively, we're in a pretty good place, but as you can see, it's still not enough for our customers. So there are a few things you can do. The first thing, and I'm going to give you 3 suggestions. The first thing is to test my site. Okay? So if you haven't been there already, Google test my site. You'll get taken to a nice page where you can put in your URL. And from there, you can see things that are impacting your site speed. you can also get tips and recommendations about how to improve the customer experience. It'll kind of look at whether you have a checkout at the top, how easy the navigation is, how easy it is to scroll, how quickly the pages load. So I suggest having a look at that if you haven't done that already. The second thing is to think a lot about images. We know that images link to about 2/3 of site speed. And think about ways that you can either compress or cache your images better to reduce your load speed. And the last one, and this is my new technology for this section, is something called progressive web apps. I'm sure many of you know about progressive web apps. I really like the concept because it combines the best of an M site with the best of an app. And it allows you to have a lightweight icon on your home screen with full catalog. You can browse it offline, and you can do push notifications. And we've been working with many businesses, retail and non-retail, in the UK and abroad, and we're seeing some incredible results. This is an example of Flipkart. So Flipkart, one of the biggest retailers in India, seeing a 70% conversion improvement with their progressive web app. Incredible results. In the UK, now this was a slide I didn't see in rehearsal, and it's loaded fine, so I'm quite relieved. Thank you to the guys at the back. So this is Debenhams, who are on their journey to progressive web app. They've got this up and running in 4 months only. And as you can see, they've got a much faster user experience. It's now less than 30 seconds to check out through their journey, which has been speeded up by 2.5 times. And already, they're seeing real improvements in terms of their conversion. So the first one is speed matters, when we have impatient customers. The second one, and we saw Stacey in her journey and the variety of places that she is browsing. And customers have an increasingly high bar in terms of the experience that they want. And this is where, and this is a theme we've heard about already this morning, I think augmented reality is going to play a really key role in retail. And I think it's going to play a key role both in-store and at home. And again, somebody earlier had an example of IKEA with augmented reality. This is the same kind of application with Wayfair in the US, a pure-play retailer who has to get over the barrier of actually not having physical stores. And in home, a category where clearly you have a large number of large items, and you can't display everything at the same time, even if you do have a physical estate. So what's interesting here is the ability clearly to be at home and to actually be able to use your phone to actually size up the lamp or the bedside table in actual size in your house environment. I also think the applications in retail are really exciting. And this is a slightly pixelated view of a store, and the little dots represent beacons here. But what's interesting here is that I think the use cases are threefold in store. I think there's opportunities for great navigation. So imagine if you had a shopping list, and actually you can get navigated around the store through augmented reality. There's great applications of gamification. And again, we've seen businesses in China, for example, having really immersive augmented reality experiences in their stores. And the last one, I think, is just providing more information, and particularly around sustainability of goods, for example, or provenance. And again, just providing an augmented experience in a retail store environment. And thinking about how we can bridge the best of retail and the best of digital in one place. Now, we heard a little bit about this in the last session. We're seeing an increasing number of users who want to engage without devices. Okay? And it's estimated that 30% of searches will be done in voice by 2020. And already we're seeing this increase going on. You'll be aware, I'm sure many of you, of what the Google Assistant is. And we're rolling this out across many, many different devices, phones, Google Home, Auto, Allo, etc. And what I think is interesting here, and we've seen some use cases already. We've seen from John Lewis with their bots. We know Tesco are doing work with Google Home, with groceries. Ferry.co.uk are doing some interesting work with assistants for delivery and being able to check when parcels are arriving. It allows you to have a two-way conversation with the assistant. And I think this is going to lead to some interesting new applications. And we've already started to build in transactions to the assistant available at the end of this year and through the course of next year. And the businesses that have jumped on this first within a retail sector is quick service restaurants. So already we've got examples of businesses in the US who are having end-to-end journeys through voice with users choosing pizzas, for example, and then paying through that voice interface as well. We've heard a lot about personalization this morning. And I think we all like recommendations. A slightly different number from an earlier presentation, but 63% of us expect personalization when we go onto a website. And actually 49% of us actually prefer to go to sites where there is a recommendation and a personalized experience. And I think at the heart of this is the aggregation of data. And I think it's one job to actually aggregate data together on your site and provide a personalized experience. It's a totally another job. For example, you have a loyal customer who you want to treat as one of your best customers based on their site purchase history. But at the same time, this same customer is actually in dispute with one of your billing departments or your delivery department over a recent delivery. Now, at the moment, most businesses don't have those two bits of data connected because the data sits in many, many different silos. I see a few nodding heads in the audience. Now, this is not an easy task, I know. But I think the benefit of getting all this data together is going to allow businesses that are doing it to have much better insights about their existing customers. We're seeing businesses who are finding insights they hadn't found before, and they're finding new propositions they can build to reduce churn because they've finally got an end-to-end view of their customers. And we're also seeing this insight, this data, working across businesses, across all their marketing activity. And this is an example of a business called Zulily, an e-commerce flash sale site. They have about 100 different events per day. And what they wanted to do is they wanted to create much more enhanced personalization and recommendation. So they aggregated all the data together, they put it in the cloud, they use technology, machine learning, in our case it's called BigQuery, and they use that to really extract great insight to provide a recommendation engine on site. And actually closer to home, in our own business, our own Google marketing team, actually use aggregation of data and predictive models to massively speed up our view of how campaigns are performing. So we previously had a 45-day window to understand how well our marketing campaigns were performing, because you get a free 30-day trial if you take Google Docs, and then you have a 15-day window to evaluate, so you have an end-to-end 45-day. With the ability to use machine learning, we can now get to a 2-day predictive window to actually understand which channels, which marketing channels, and which messages are working better, thereby driving much greater efficiency in our marketing activity. So it gets me to my last of the 5, which is around greater efficiency. And this is where I think sometimes we focus a lot about technology change from a front-end perspective. But actually, there are some huge changes that are going on from a back-end perspective as well. We know about the importance of machine learning. We know about the huge impact that it's going to have in business. And we see that, for example, not just a single customer view, but businesses that are getting a single view of product, a near real-time view of product, are starting to get huge advantages in terms of understanding overstock or understock, or changes in patterns, or how do I move different stock to a particular store. And I want to end with this slightly fun example, and it's really to show that machine learning kind of technologies are available to everybody, however big or however small your business is. So this is an example, and it slightly links onto kind of Jenny's presentation about vision, but it's more from an internal perspective. So this is a business it's a family-run business in Japan, and they're cucumber farmers. And I'm not an expert on this business, but I gather they come in all different shapes and sizes. And they need to be sorted. And they need to be sorted manually. And it's quite an onerous task to sort them into the ones that are able to be sold and not able to be sold. And so what this family did, and they had a son who's obviously quite good at computer science, he worked with TensorFlow and Vision API to do image recognition of all the different cucumbers. And there's a nice video, if you actually search Japanese cucumber farmer machine learning. I've searched it so many times now that I just type in J, and it pre-predicts that I'm going to search for that. Back to the machine learning example. And you have a conveyor belt here with a camera taking images. It's used through a Raspberry Pi, and it's able to actually understand, first of all, this is a cucumber. And secondly, this is a cucumber that is the right shape and the right size to go to a retailer or not, and it sorts it automatically into section A or section B, saving them huge amounts of time. Now, it's one example, but it shows that this really is very obtainable for businesses of all different sizes. I think John, in his first presentation this morning, talked about the team and the people at the end. And I think it's really important. We're here, we talk about technology a lot, but actually all these things are only possible with the right people. And one thing I'm really seeing is a huge convergence of teams within retailers, from an IT perspective, a data scientists and marketing teams coming together in a way that previously I think they would have been much more separated. Often it's the engineering team who are doing the great work aggregating all the data together. The data scientists who are building out the fantastic insight, and then the marketing teams who are deploying. And this kind of way of working, this collaboration, I think is going to be absolutely key to leverage these technologies in the future. So we had a lot of quotes today, and it's always nice to end with a nice big lofty quote, but I think this is absolutely right. You know, we are in a time of change. Retail, it does feel like it's speeding up, but it's going to speed up even more. And we need to kind of create an environment where we have the right team, the right people in place to really leverage these technologies and these changes that are going to be coming in the future. So I leave you with my 5 technologies for connecting retail. And if you only remember one thing, please go and test your site and work out how long it takes. Test your favorite competitor and see how long it compares, and then take some steps to make sure you can be even faster. Thank you very much.